Happy Friday, everybody. It's Jamie Green, the Solar Queen, and welcome to Kickstart Conversations, where I interview business owners, entrepreneurs, side hustlers, and influencers and learn what they are doing, how they got started, and where they're going next. So this week, I have Doug Wing on the show, and he and his father built the Little Giant Ladder. So if you have one of those ladders in your home, consider yourself really awesome. We're going to hear his story in just a moment. So we're live. Hello, Doug. How are you this afternoon?
Hi, Jamie. I am doing well, very well, and I'm really honored to be on your show. You are a mover and shaker, and I can tell that you're just a dynamo and a hardworking lady, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. I try to be a diehard, dynamo, hardworking lady. Yeah, that's what I try and do, and I try and meet and mingle with other diehard, people that are movers and shakers as well. And I'm so happy to have met you actually in person last month. Was it last month already, or was it this month?
No, it was last month in Florida, right? Correct?
It was earlier this month in St. Petersburg, yeah.
Yeah.
But you and I, we've been in some groups together and mentoring and all that good stuff. When I heard your story, I was like, my gosh, you've accomplished so much. So I would love for you to share what your father started and what you helped create, which is Little Giant Ladder. So can you share how it all got started? Like the idea of because a ladder is a ladder. Everyone has every homeowner and any like business that is in the trades, they have ladders. So share a little bit about that, please.
Well, my father really kind of stumbled across the original design of the Little Giant style of ladder in Germany. He had no intention of doing anything with ladders. He was a very good salesman. He worked for a life insurance company that was based out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and was living in Germany because he knew German and English, and he opened up a new agency in Germany, and his partner actually stumbled onto the ladder, saw the concept, thought it was really cool, and kept talking to my dad about it. My dad was like, Richard, we are selling insurance, not ladders. And finally, he talked my dad into it, and my dad saw the idea, and he was like, wow, this is incredible. This could turn into something. And so that's how, he saw the ladder. He became good friends with the inventor of the ladder. He was a house painter who then started building ladders, and the rest is history. My father started out with buying, a sample or two, and then took that ladder and learned a presentation and took it a lot of his friends and businesses and things like that, pre-sold some, and then started bringing in containers, and that's how the whole thing started. Eventually, we worked out a licensing agreement and started manufacturing ourselves. When the patents ran out of that original ladder, my dad and some other smart people redesigned some things and made their own patents, and so that's how the whole thing started.
So it like he saw a product in Germany, he found the inventor, became friends with him, started, and then the patent runs out, and so he goes and he starts producing and manufacturing the ladder himself.
Yeah, and that's correct. And the thing is a lot of people see Little Giant and they see their infomercials and they see them in Lowe's now and other retailers, and they think, that this new company, but the company has been around since 1972. So that's one thing when I talk to people about business. Sometimes businesses start up real fast and go crazy, but people need to remember that when you're starting a company, It's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of money, and a lot of hard work and time. And so people need to be patient. And so I was 10 years old. My brother was 12. My dad was a relatively young man, and this took a while. It didn't, normally things don't just explode overnight. They can, but normally it takes a while to establish a business, and that's how it was with Little Giant.
Randy says, good day. Good day, Randy. Thanks for watching.
Randy.
And if you share this out, if you would like, I would appreciate it. So you can hear the story of Little Giant Ladder and about Doug Wing. So your dad, when did you guys start seeing, because everyone says I think I'm going in the right direction. This way it kind of takes some time, and then everyone wants to see that. So when did you guys start seeing this? Like right before it was starting to take off, the Little Giant Ladder company?
Well, my dad was an incredible salesman, and the first year alone, he sold by himself about $500,000 worth of ladders, which is pretty incredible. And so, again, this was a long time ago in the 70s, and considering what the economy was like in the early to mid 70s, and then going to the later 70s, with the U.S. economy, we were in a recession. We had higher interest rate and things like that. But I had a dad that was had such a strong self-belief, and really anything that the man set his mind to. He used to have a saying that said, "When people tell me it can't be done, I'm ready to go." And so he was just driven. He didn't take no for an answer. He was incredible. His work ethic was unbelievable. And, then as we went along, I learned a lot of things from my dad that were very important. One is that we can never sacrifice quality. If we have the quality and we are the quality leader, we can pretty much charge what we want for them. And then, I think the other great lesson that I learned from my father was, if you take care of people and help people, and build people, then they will help you and build you and your company, and everybody all boats kind of float up, and you'll be successful.
I love that, because that's really like customer service and customer care, and then product quality is so, like if you have customer care, if there's something that ever goes wrong, like I'm sure there have been people that have said, oh, it's the ladder, whatever, and customer care comes in and takes care of it for them, or make sure that their experience gets satisfied, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but to make sure that the customer is taken care of, because we live in an age now where everyone can complain about something, or they can go in and write a bad review, or they can just slam a company or slam a product. But if the customer care is there and the nurturing and taking care of them is there, I think that just is something that sets a company apart. So we have some people coming in and saying hi. So hi, Cody.
Hey.
And JR says hello. Thanks for watching, JR. Merry Christmas to you too.
I was on JR's show, I think a week or so ago, but the thing that really that made, like with Little Giant, for example, most people say they have like a customer service department. Little Giants, our customer service is called the customer experience team. And so again, we make a great product. We always had quality, but like as you mentioned before, you have to also have an excellent customer experience team. And, like, for example, when you go to Disney World or Disneyland, what kind of an experience do you have there? You have an amazing experience. Yeah. It's because they have awesome products, but they also have awesome employees that they train very, very well. So it's part of it. But the main thing that really made my dad successful was that how he, the people that he had working for him, the way he treated them. And Little Giant was just like a big family. And honestly, my dad and mom, they loved their employees. They treated them like family. And in return, those employees loved my parents and our family, and would really, just go over mountains for Little Giant and for them.
That's awesome to hear. So it's a family owned and operated. Is it still family owned and operated?
It's still family owned. Yeah, I'm no longer a part of the business, but my brother and my sister are still there.
Gotcha.
A very unique culture there, and unlike any other. I mean, I've been in a lot of different companies and meetings and things as I've traveled around, but the only business I've ever been in that every meeting is started with a word of prayer, and different things like that made it really unique. We had real Christmas parties every year where we talked about the birth of Christ, celebrated Christmas. Employees get their birthday off with pay, just little things like that
Yeah.
make it a great place to work.
That's awesome. I mean, I think that's something that we don't really see anymore these days. I mean, it's been a while since I've been in a corporate setting, but I think, when a company values its employees, and they show appreciation. I always, for me, when I work, if they just said thank you and then they showed appreciation for what I did, it just would help me continue to give back to the company. Like, when I was at Boeing, that I had managers and bosses that would be very appreciative, and it just made the working relationship that much better and stronger. And you felt a part of the growth. You felt a part of it. So that's really cool that you guys created that environment for your employees. Really.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so you mentioned that you have exited the company, but before you did that, what was your role in the company, and what were you specifically doing? I know you and I talked about that you've been to the Puyallup Fair,
Mhm.
and that's the town I grew up in. And if anyone saw the word Puyallup, they wouldn't know how to say it, but. So were you out there doing trade shows? Were you out there getting the product out in front of corporations and businesses? What was your primary? I know you probably wore many hats, but gosh, we've got so many, we've got so many people commenting. Thanks everybody for commenting.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, so I had my dad was really smart in that he made sure that we started at the bottom and worked our way up. And I think that that was for two purposes. I think one was that so we would learn every aspect of the business. And then
mhm.
number two, I think the reason he did that is so that we would appreciate when we became uh, owners of the business and eventually on the management team, so that we would not only know everything about the company, but that we would also get to appreciate the employees that we had. For example, when I first started, I mean, I was, like I told you, I was 10 years old. I made restrooms, we swept warehouses and parking lots, and we put the instruction manuals together for the ladders and put labels and things like that on them. And then eventually continued, through manufacturing and shipping and operations and sales management and operations of the whole company, and then eventually working my way up into a role of vice chairman of the company, and on the management team. And we had 4 people that were on the upper senior management team at Little Giant. But the just the things that you learn, nowadays, a lot of young people, they just want to have everything. They get out of college and they're like, hey, I want to make 200,000 a year. I want a big house. I want to drive a Mercedes. I want it right now. But my father had the ability to do that with my brother and I, but he was very methodical in how he did that, and he made us earn everything that we had and learn the business. And I'm very grateful for him for doing that and not just giving us things. I remember one time I went to my dad, and I was living in an apartment, newly married, and I said, hey, Dad, I want more money. And that was my first mistake, saying that to my dad. I want to get a house and have my first house. And my dad goes, I'm not going to give you more money. You're not worth it to me. I mean, and at first I was kind of mad at my
Yeah.
dad, but he was like, you know what? You're not, just because you're my son, you're not worth any more money to me right now. You can, learn more skills. Or he said, I got an idea for you. He goes, our cleaning company that cleans the offices every day just gave their 2 weeks notice. And he goes, so you and your wife can start cleaning the office is either before work or after work, and here's what it pays. And it was exactly the amount I needed to get my house. And so, at first I was kind of mad about it. But as I went and did this job for several years, I was so grateful for my dad that he said, hey, you need to be worth more and you need to learn more. And I'm not just going to pay you more because your name's, Wing.
Right. I am not to make this into a morbid conversation, but I was reading that Ray Dalio, the famous billionaire hedge fund manager, he just lost his son to a tragic car accident last week, and he posted on his social media a nice article that was written about his son. And one of the things that stood out to me was just how people who knew his son, I mean, he came from a lot of money, but he didn't carry that over people. He wasn't like, I am Ray Dalio's son, but the article just talked about how, the son really took the lessons from his dad and work ethic and kindness. Like, I think that was the one thing that really stood out, was the things that his parents taught him, and that he was known for. He was never known as a jerk or a spoiled, son or anything. And so I think that's an incredible thing, because I think so many people, like you said, are, kids coming out of college, and they've got these really expensive degrees and debt that they're carrying with them and going into the workforce. But they're expecting to start out at mid-level positions, or starting out with $100,000 salaries or more, but they don't learn how to work from the ground floor up, so it's.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, one thing that was impressive about my dad was, of course, he was super successful, had so many cars and houses and things like that, and nice things. But he knew all of his employees by name. He knew something about them, and he cared about them, and was just there to love them and help them. And he looked for opportunities for people, to give people work and to help them improve and to grow as people. So he was just great that way. I mean, he had the ability to really see people in a way that, okay, I'm going to give this guy a job or this lady a job. And he could see in the future and kind of see who they were and what they could become. And that's kind of a special gift, that some people have, to where he could say, okay, I see potential in this guy. I think this guy could really help me in the company, and I can really help him grow as well. So he used to have this saying that said, hey, like if we were in negotiations with people, he would say, if it's not a good deal for everybody around the table, including you, it's not a good deal for us. In other words, if he got the lion's share of everything, then that's not fair. So he's very honest, had integrity, and realized, hey, it's got to be good for everybody or it's not a good deal.
That's awesome. So speaking of cars, I know that you enjoy cars and I think motorcycles. So Justin Benton wants to know, what is your favorite Ford car?
Hey, Justin. So right now I have two cars that I would say are my favorites. I'm a big Ford guy, as Justin knows, but I also like trucks, the old trucks and Broncos. I've got some of those, but probably my favorite car is a Ford GT that came out in about 2005. And then they produced, I think, 2,000 or 3,000. And then in 2006, they produced another 2,000 or 3,000. So it's a very rare car. And it's the car that was based on the movie Ford versus Ferrari, if you've seen that.
Oh, I love that movie. Yeah. It was probably one of the best movies I saw last year or this year.
So the GT40 was only 40 inches tall. So it was very hard to get into for tall people. Well, then Ford came out with the GT, and I think it's about 5 inches taller than the GT40. But if I had, I don't know if I would do this, but Ford came out with a couple of years ago a new GT that now they're selling for about $1 million. And that would be my dream car, but I don't think I would spend that kind of money for a car. What
do you think about all Ford going electric?
Jeffrey Gitomer keeps, every time we get in his Tesla, they're neat cars, but
there's Jen saying hi. Hi, Jen.
And Jen's driving that Tesla.
He's driving a Tesla too.
I think that they're super fast. 0 to 100, those Teslas can beat my cars. But I have my Ford GT goes about 205 top speed.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so I know that after 100, I can pass Jen, but 0 to 100, Jen's going to smoke me. But electric cars are cool. I'm not a big fan because I like to hear the rumble of the motors and I like them loud, but they are cool. And I think they're very good for the planet.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, Tesla's a huge company and they have a huge following, but Ford's doing that too now. They're coming out with a Mustang and everything. So it'll be really interesting to see how they perform and
Yeah.
how they work. And because here's the thing, I've got a GT 500 Mustang that I just bought, and the only thing that will not pass is a gas station. I mean, they just suck the gas down.
They do.
So,
I worked for a Ford dealership right out of high school as I was going into college. I was only in college for a year and a half, and then I dropped out and got my job at Boeing. But I worked for a Ford dealership, and we would do off-site sales. Like we would take them to the Tacoma Dome from where the dealership was at in Puyallup, and we would go down River Road. For anyone who's watching that lives in Puyallup and knows where River Road is, it's like a straight shot into Tacoma, and we would just floor it in those Mustangs and just go vroom, and and we would always joke that the gas was going like this every time you put your foot down on the gas pedal.
oh yeah. Like I said, they'll pass a lot of things, but they won't pass gas stations. Not
right.
But anyway, yeah, cars are just a little hobby of mine. But my dad, when he was alive, he was a big car guy. He had about 60 cars. And
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
Do you have a museum of the cars?
Well, he drove them all, and he had them all insured and registered, and he had a guy that washed them all and that to help take care of them. But my dad knew that he was going to die. They say a lot of people know that. And about a year before he passed away, he sold almost all his cars.
Oh, interesting.
And so,
So Jennifer says now we just need solar panels on top of the car so we can charge it while we drive. That might be a while, but who knows?
that could work. I mean, now on I don't know if you know this, Jamie, but on RVs now, like trailers and motorhomes, they have those. So they're smaller, obviously.
They're smaller, yeah.
And when people are out camping or they're driving, they can charge their batteries on those.
Yes, I have a couple of friends who are doing that right now. They're retrofitting their Mercedes van and their Ford vans and putting on solar power onto the rooftop. I was just at a installation this afternoon, and I was talking with the electrician that was there when we're talking about the installation and going back to ladders. I was like, "Oh, do you guys have little giant ladders?" He goes, "We actually do." But he said only like half the ladders are little giant. I go, you need to get more. You need to replace the entire ladder fleet.
Way to go. You're always, one thing I really enjoy about watching you and your shows is that, and when I talk to you in person, you're always thinking about ideas and how you can just sell things and grow your business. And so you've got a good mind for business and you're always looking for opportunities, which is really, really cool.
Well, thank you. And I always like to promote others. Like it's not just my product or what I can do, but how can I help others? And which is why I've been wanting to do this show for so long. I was talking about doing the show a year ago, and now, with every people that I've been meeting, and like Ken Walls and Jeffrey Gitomer and Joe Soto, everyone that's doing like encouraging to go live, it finally. I thought, how would I do this as a podcast? So I really like the engagement, that the live stream actually brings so that we can talk about what is this person doing? Like, I want to ask you about the book you're writing, and I want to ask you about what DougWing.com is all about. That's in the back there. Justin said, when they start putting solar panels on cars, I know who to call to get them installed, the Solar Queen. Thanks, Justin.
Exactly. I have no doubt if they do that, you're going to be involved in it, which is
we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? It's probably going to go that direction. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I understand you're writing a book. What is the book going to be about? And how is the writing process going for you?
Well, I appreciate you asking me about the book because so when my dad was still alive, he started writing a book with a professor at Brigham Young University, I think an English professor or some kind of literary professor or something. But and the book he got about 3 or 4 chapters done before he passed away. And when my dad did die, this professor, contacted us. I met with him and he gave me the manuscript and he said, "Did you know your dad was writing this book?" And I said, "No." And then the longer things went after my dad had passed away, just his incredible story. I mean, you got to realize that he started this company from nothing and took it into the hundreds of millions of dollars.
So incredible.
And, I mean, he was sleeping in his car on top of ladders on foam pads, and he could only afford to stay in a hotel every 3 or 4 nights, and just the sacrifices that he made for the company and to get it going. And then he had these core principles and values that were so unique and that helped make him so successful, including, building people, helping others succeed. And so I thought about this book. I talked to some of my siblings, and there really wasn't any interest with my family in doing that. And so I thought, I'm going to do this. And of course, I knew Jeffrey Gitomer for many, many years, and started talking to him about the idea. And of course, Jeffrey was a big Little Giant fan. He had done some training for Little Giant when I was in charge of all of the training at Little Giant for the sales teams and customer service. And eventually we just started talking about this book, and he just said, "You've got to tell this story." So I'm kind of excited because not only are we going to write this book about, from nothing to this wonderful company and how he did it and some of the sacrifices that he went through, but also working with Jeffrey on these 15 core principles of Hal Wing. And we're going to turn that into a course that will go kind of hand in hand with the book, that we can actually go to corporations and say, "Hey, we're going to teach you these success principles of Hal Wing, the founder of a Little Giant, and they're going to help you and your employees to be better employees, to work better together and build your company." So that's what we're working on right now. The book is, again, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. In fact, if my 9th, 10th grade English teacher saw this, she'd probably die, because she told me I was stupid in high school.
Oh, shame on her.
And and she was like, she told me I was just dumb and stuff like that. But anyway, so I'm grateful to have someone like Jeffrey to help me along the way and
Yeah.
kind of guide me. And I'm learning. And the thing is, I'm growing as a person, right? I'm doing something I've never done before, and this will help me grow as well and help others. And so the website, my new website, is tied into that. It's a site where people can go to learn more about me and about kind of my philosophies, my father's philosophies. There's places on there where they can go to learn more about sales training and coaching and speaking and different things like that will continue to grow as the book comes out and people read it and they kind of catch this vision that Hal Wing had, and that we can help them do the same things in their companies.
That's great. I mean, what a legacy your dad has left for the world. I mean, not just for you and your family, but for the world and for companies that want to see growth and want to see their companies, grow and grow and grow and become like that whole idea of being the king in their category, or whatever it is that they sell or offer, the service that they provide. So that is really amazing. And I'm glad that, you're working with Jeffrey and writing this book and then creating a sales training course. Like, how awesome is that? So
yeah. And I was just going to tell you that, we talked earlier about, no, I'm really excited about this, but we talked earlier about my dad's being able to see people and recognize talent. There's kind of a legendary story there at Little Giant. In the early days, my dad was doing some interviewing with, I think, probably an HR person at Little Giant, and they were interviewing for manufacturing positions. And they had some people in the front lobby they were interviewing, and they had probably 10 or 15 people in the office. And my dad came in to the HR guy and said, "Hey, how are we doing with, are we getting ready to start these interviews? And do we have some good candidates?" And And the HR guy said, yeah, we've got some really good candidates, except for this guy. He's a total loser. And he took his resume and threw it in the garbage. And my dad said, what do you mean this guy's a loser? Let me see that resume. And so my dad pulls it out of the garbage. He looks on this guy's resume. The guy's an Eagle Scout. The guy had served a mission for his church, but he had gotten into trouble. He did something he shouldn't have done. And he went to prison for like 2 years. And so the guy said, yeah, this guy's a total loser. And my dad said, is the guy still here? And he goes, yeah, he's out there. So my dad goes and gets him and interviews him and finds out that this guy is a wonderful guy. He just made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but he paid for it in prison. And so my dad gives this guy a job. And this guy's like 6'2", 6'3", 250 pounds of solid muscle. And he's like, he says to my dad, well, don't you know what I've done? And my dad goes, well, yeah, I know what you've done. I've got your resume right here. And he goes, I can tell you're a good man. You just made a mistake. You're coming to work for me. And so again, my dad sees this guy, that he has potential. He gives him a job, and things continue to go down the road. This guy's a great employee. And one day my dad calls him in, and he has this big keychain with all these keys on it. And he goes, John, we're going to give you these keys. And he's like, for what? And he goes, well, you're now the plant supervisor for the whole manufacturing.
Wow.
This guy literally burst into tears. He's this big mountain of muscle, and bursts into tears and picks my dad up and hugs him, and he's got him off the ground because my dad was a small guy, holding him like a rag doll and kissing him and hugging him. And that guy worked for us for over 20 years.
Wow.
And he retired from Little Giant, and my dad helped build this guy and, you know, give him back his confidence, his self-worth. He saw potential in this man. And here this other guy said, he's a loser.
Yeah.
And my dad said, no, he's not. And he gave him an opportunity. And that's the kind of guy that Hal Wing was. He built people, and the people helped him build a great company, and everybody was successful. It was wonderful.
That's such a great story. Earlier in the show, you were talking about something that your company did differently than maybe most, which is starting with a morning prayer or, prayer. And so Cody was asking, what was the message of the prayer? Would you be willing to share that?
Yeah, for sure.
I have to believe that had made an impact on the company's, what is it called? Atmosphere and the culture of the company.
Yeah. So, so really every meeting at Little Giant, and I believe it's still this way today. I don't care if it's, a weekly sales meeting or whatever it is, whatever meeting we're having, we started with prayer. And, specifically, people would take turns, volunteering. They'd say, does anybody want to say the prayer today? And, they were just short 1 minute, maybe, 30-second, 1 minute prayers, just basically asking for help.
Yeah.
To help us continue in the company, to help us make the right decisions for the company, for the employees. And even as a management team, I can tell you every week when myself, my brother, and our CEO and CFO, when we met as a management team, we did not have one meeting that didn't begin with a word of prayer. We thanked God for all of our employees. We asked a blessing upon them all, that they would be protected, the salesmen that were traveling, the employees that were operating big, heavy, dangerous machinery, that they would be safe, and that we would continue to be blessed as a company. And I truly believe that we were blessed by doing that.
I would have to agree. I mean, that's just asking for God's favor over your company and over the lives and employees and whatnot. So let me ask you this question. Was every employee, were they religious, or were there people that were, maybe not religious? Were they okay? Obviously they were okay with that. I mean, I have to imagine that some were not, but.
That's a really good question. And my dad used to, like, for example, I talked about our Christmas parties. My dad was so nice, and he was so sensitive to other people's feelings. He would say things like, at the Christmas party, he'd say, for the next 10 minutes, we're going to talk about Christ and his birth. And my dad would personally read from the Bible in Luke 2. He would read the story of Christ's birth. Before he did that, he would say, if there's anybody in here that's not comfortable with this message that we're going to be doing tonight for the next 5 or 10 minutes, if you want to just slip outside, that would be fine, and just wait until we're done. But he would never, make anyone feel uncomfortable. But after we would read the story of Luke in the Bible, chapter 2, the birth of Christ, we would sing Christmas carols, and we would always end with Silent Night. And it was wonderful. I mean, it was just great. And there were people, of course, who maybe they were atheists, or they didn't believe, maybe in the religion that some had, or whatever. And so my dad would always say, I don't care if you believe in God, or if you're Muslim, or you're an atheist, or whatever, we love you, we care about you, but we're going to just talk about this for a few minutes. And, if you're not comfortable, just slip out for a few minutes. And so I really miss those Christmas parties with my dad up there. He had this white suit he would wear. Sometimes he'd wear a little Santa hat, and he'd be reading, I have a picture of him just holding the Bible and reading from Luke 2. It was really neat.
Oh, how special is that? Cody has another question, or he says, thanks, Doug. I'm writing a letter to my mother for Christmas, telling her why she is great. What do you think is important for parents to hear?
Well, I think that, wow, Cody.
That's a loaded question, isn't it?
I'm honored that he would ask me this question. If I think every parent wants to hear and know that their kids appreciate the things that they did for them when they were growing up. As I mentioned before, I think there's so many kids nowadays, and we do the rising generation. I believe in them. I think they're super smart, but we have some that kind of have the entitlement attitude. But in a way, maybe some parents have kind of brought that on themselves, and maybe spoiled their kids too much. But I think every parent would like to see and hear and feel from their kids that they do appreciate what they did for them when they were growing up. And I mean, if my parents were here today, I mean, I miss them so much. They're both gone. I would just tell them how much I love them and appreciate the things that they did for me, the sacrifices that they went through for me when they were growing up. I mean, for example, my dad was gone over 300 days a year when I was in junior high and high school on the road. And so I missed a lot of things with my father in during that time, but he made up for it later in later years, and we did a lot of things together. And I think that there was one thing that my dad kind of had a little bit of regret about, was that he spent so much time on the road building the company. But if he wouldn't have done the things that he did, Little Giant would not be what it is today. And I'm convinced of that.
Yeah. That's true. You got to make sacrifice. My kids always ask, Mom, why do you have to work on solar stuff? I go, well, because. Well, why do you say because? Well, I said, because we have to help people. We have to help the planet. And I have a way to do that. And you get to watch and learn work ethic. And, they come with me on whenever we go to an installation that's local, or there's a site and survey or anything, they come with me and they're watching. They don't see my husband going to work, and they don't see what he's doing every day, because they just have no concept of what he's doing. But because I work out of the home,
yeah,
they're seeing it, they watch it, and it's mostly they don't want their days to be interrupted. But I think for at least my middle son, he is definitely taking notice, and he's asking questions. That we're reading Think and Grow Rich right now together, which is it's a pretty intense book with some really amazing principles. And if people who are watching haven't read that book, you should go read Think and Grow Rich. And I also like How to Win Friends, and How to Win
Friends
and Influence Them, I think is the title of the book. I have that, and I love that book as well. But, he's wanting to learn how to be a businessman. And so he's only five and a half, but he's already starting to think that way. And so I want to foster that for him and let him flourish if that's what he wants to do. And if he's noticing and he's paying attention, then, I think that's wonderful. So,
Well, yeah, and I think you're doing a great job, because here's my advice for you, Jamie, because I got a 26-year-old, and I would say your kids are watching you, and I know you're a hard worker, and that's going to pay off big dividends for you and for them. And the other thing is I would say be really careful that you don't do too much for your kids. Make sure that they can do even little things when they're younger, and work, learn how to work.
yeah.
We actually used to hire, believe it or not, sales. We hired for attitude, number one, but we like to get people who grew up on farms and to sell Little Giant ladders. And why did we do that? Because somebody who grew up on a family farm or worked for a family farm, those guys are up, at 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and they learn how to work really, really hard.
Yes.
And so, some of that is a little bit lost today. That manual labor, the hard work, we don't do as much of that anymore. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to get up at 4 in the morning, go with my dad and build ladders. I hated it. Of course, when I was in junior high school, I didn't like it, right?
You'd rather be sleeping in.
Sure. I mean, I would rather be playing Pong on my Atari, and that tells you how old I am. We didn't have Game Boys and all that stuff, but I played Pong, which is absolutely the worst game in the world. It was boring, but for us, it was great. But, could my mom and dad have let us play Pong all day long? Of course they could have, right? But they said, no, we're going to teach them how to work and how to, treat people and those types of things. And my dad was very meticulous. I mean, his lawn was cut a certain way. His house was always clean. His business was clean. His cars were clean. And I learned, my dad said that he was so impressed with me that he would come home from a business trip and he noticed the lawn was mowed. And so I had this ability, and instilled in me by my dad and mom, to recognize when things needed to be done and to do them, and not to be told to do them. And so it seems like nowadays we have to sometimes tell our kids so many times. And so I'm grateful for a mom and dad that really instilled a work ethic in us, and to be honest, have integrity, and to treat people well. And it's really paid off big time for me. And I'm just so grateful. If my mom and dad were here right now, I'd just hug them and kiss them and tell them how much I love them. And I'm just grateful for them. And I miss them, especially this time of year.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
I mean, I just miss them so much. And this book will help cement Hal Wing's legacy. And because, in just a few generations, there's going to be some Wing kids who maybe won't even know their great-grandfather, right? Or great-great-great-grandfather, Hal Wing, because they're not involved in the company and he's gone. And so I hope that it'll help the Wing family, and then also secondary, that's going to help businesses and employees and people who, like we talked about before, Jamie, people that want to start a company, but they're afraid. And hey, it takes a big risk, that. And Hal Wing was a risk taker. And man, that guy, he was not afraid, and he rolled the dice many times. People don't realize Little Giant went bankrupt one time when my dad sold it. He got the company back. My dad walked into a bank and said, I don't know when I can pay you back, but I need $1 million to start Little Giant again. I promise you I'll pay you back. I don't have any collateral, no money, but I've always paid you guys back. Will you give me the money? And my dad, on a handshake with the CEO of this bank in Utah, he got the $1 million money on a handshake. And because they knew he had integrity. And those days, I'm telling you, you couldn't walk into a bank right now and do that. There's no way.
Mm-hmm. It's an incredible story. I love that story, actually.
That story is going to be in the book, because it is a cool story. And I asked my dad about that one time. I said, man, were you scared the second time? And he goes, no. He goes, it was easier the second time. He goes, I knew the mistakes I had made. I wrote them down and I remembered them. And he goes, I was so much more successful the second time because I eliminated all the dumb things I did the first time. And he goes, it was easier. And I'm like, holy cow.
Yes, learning from our mistakes. And I mean, because people are so, I think, afraid of failure, or they just want instant success. And, You
Yeah.
kind of got to go through the I guess school of hard knocks, but as long as you learn from it and grow from it,
Yeah.
like the story of the gentleman that came and had been in prison, like he could have been like scared out of his mind and thought, I'm never going to get a job because of my history and my past, but he still went. He was brave, he was honest, and your dad saw something in him, and he was forever changed. Like, that's the story those are the stories you want to hear about everybody, stories of redemption and stories of having, faith in someone that they're going to not be marked by their past or their history,
Yeah.
especially if it's tainted or, tainted. We all have stories that we might be embarrassed about or don't want anybody to know, but hopefully we all grow as individuals and take those lessons and carry them forward. So,
Yeah. Well, my dad, when he first started the company, the largest ladder company in the world, which is still around, the two brothers that owned that company back in the day, they walked up to my dad at a trade show similar to Puyallup Fair, and they laughed at him and they said, "Wing, you're an idiot. They go, you're never gonna sell these ladders. They told him, they go, you are an idiot." And my dad said that day when those guys told me that, he goes, "Man, I had a fire within me."
it was
And
probably the best thing he could have heard
he goes,
to get
"I'm
him to go, to go to the next level.
yeah." And the funny thing about that is those guys, those two brothers, tried to buy our business 5 times, and my dad wouldn't sell to them. I thought it was great.
That's the best, actually. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
5 times they were persistent.
Yeah. Oh, so over my career at Little Giant, those guys came back 5 times. My dad told them no every time.
They shouldn't have called your dad an idiot.
Yeah, they just
Words
laughed.
are powerful, aren't they?
But it's really super cool to just hear these stories, and I think people are going to love them, and they're going to be able to apply them into their lives, because like you said, it's scary sometimes. I mean, even this year with COVID, I think a lot of people are living in fear, but I have no doubt that America is going to continue to be a great country, the greatest country in the world. We're going to get through this COVID, and we're going to continue to come up with innovative ideas, and the company's going to thrive. Now, I think a lot of the changes that are going to be happening in the country with the go live stuff is for real. And so the people that are embracing it, like you and Jeffrey and all the other companies, in fact, Little Giant Live, Little Giant has a new thing that's called Little Giant Live, and we've got like 3 or 4 new studios my brother built.
Oh,
and
that's great.
and they're doing live presentations every day. I mean, it's just like doing a sales call, and you're doing it over video and Zoom.
Well, that's how the vast majority of my sales have happened, is over a Zoom call or over
Yeah.
Messenger, or it's just been all like this. And so it's very rare that I actually go to a homeowner's house, or
Mhm.
I did meet with some business owners because they're local, and it was, it was safe to do so. But a lot of these transactions are happening over video, like a video conference call.
Yeah.
So it has totally changed the way businesses are being ran and how business transactions are happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's are things going to come back in America? Yes, I believe they are, but I don't think they're going to be the way they were. I think more people are going to do business this way. And everybody used to get on airplanes and fly all over the place, and
Yep.
I think the airlines and the hotels are really going to take a hit, and they have already, but it's going to be different. And yes, people are still going to fly and things like that, but I think the future of business, this is the way. And you better get with the program, or you're going to be left in the dust. And so,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've been hearing video for the last 3 years, and it's taken me this long to finally. I mean, I was doing videos here and there, video content, but not something so structured like this. But I'm thoroughly enjoying it because I'm learning a ton. And I think everybody who's watching and listening, in the replay. So if you're watching the replay, you can let us know, and also ask any questions you would like. People are going to pick up something, and they're going to take it. Like, my biggest thing is I want people who have an idea or a thought, or, something that, that they don't just, like, yes, you can give away, you can give advice and stuff, but if you have an idea, you need to uh, like go with it and create something great for you and your family, and hopefully do something that your dad has done, which has left an incredible legacy here in your own family, but here on this planet. So, because we all, I think that's just what I love about America too, because I wasn't born here. I was born in Korea, and I had the privilege of being adopted and born in, or not born, but raised here in America. And for the longest time, I thought, what's the, like the American dream, and what am I going to do with my life for, just for so long. And I feel like, from 30 to 40 and now in my 40s, I'm finally feeling like I'm hitting my stride and my purpose here on earth, not just as like, such an honor and privilege to be a mother and a wife and everything, but how can I make a bigger impact on the world and on people's lives? And, for the time being, the solar thing is the thing that I'm doing. And it's such a wonderful opportunity to be able to do this and run with it. So that's like really the premise of the show, is people coming on, sharing their stories, and someone hearing it and going, I think we sometimes get in our way or make it too difficult, or let fears get in the way and say we can't do it. I want to say to everyone, bust through your fears and do the hard work, because it takes hard work. It takes time, and it's going to take dedication, and it's going to take help to grow as a business. Your father couldn't have done it on his own. There's no way.
And that's the thing that that he recognized early on, is I need good people. I need to treat those people well. And if I treat those people well and put them in the right places on the bus, because we're all different, we all have different talents and abilities, and sometimes we have to juggle people around and things like that. But honestly, I mean, if you take care of people, and I mean, for you, Jamie, right, if you have a quality product in your solar, and then you provide good quality service and take care of people and build relationships, you're going to be successful. And that's the key in any business, is to, Jeffrey Gitomer talks about this all the time. People like to buy from their friends.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still talk to people that I've dealt with in business now, in the ladder business for 25 to 30 years. We're still dear friends. And so I think it's just great that you can have business relationships. But these guys are my friends, and some women, they're just, I have some great relationships with people, and we're super close. Every time I come to their area where they live, we have dinner, or they come to Utah or whatever. So for me, it's all about the relationships, and then just taking care of people.
Yeah, I love it. I want to say thank you for coming on my show today and sharing your story, sharing your family's story and your dad. And I'm really excited for your book to come out. Do you have a title yet, or do you know when the book will be like all finished and the plans for when it will be published?
Yes, we do have a title. I have a title. It's called Giant Success.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I had a different title for it, and I'm so grateful for Jeffrey, because he's the master at those things.
Yes.
And we have the title, the subtitle done. Some of the chapters are done, and then the foreword will be written by Jeffrey, which is going to be super cool. And I would say later on this year, for the next year, month and a half, there's going to be a little delay because I'm moving to another state.
Yes.
And so, I'm trying to do this and box things and move things, but I would say, probably summer, maybe early or late summer, sometime like that, it'll be done. And so I'm really excited about it, just to tell the story about an incredible human being, excuse me, and then his philosophies of helping other people to be successful. I think people are really going to enjoy this read. My dad was just a wonderful guy. Excuse me. And I usually drink during these things, but anyway, it's going to be a great book. I'm really excited about it.
Well, I'm really excited to read it, and follow Doug on, check out dougwing.com, because I'm sure you're going to have updates on your book there. Hang tight. I'm going to just wrap up the show, but I want to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas, Doug.
Jamie, it's been a pleasure. You're a very nice person. You've been very kind to me, and I wish you a Merry Christmas and all the best to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so what an incredible story to hear about Hal Wing and Doug and the Little Giant Ladder. And a little bit here about, his love for cars and what he's up to this year. So the book, as he said, should be out this summer, hopefully sooner. We'll see. But yeah, share this out if you know anybody who would like to hear this story. It's an incredible story. And next week, we're going to do the show again Wednesday because next Friday is, I think it's New Year's Day. Next week on Wednesday, I'm going to have Alex Walker on, and she is a branding specialist. She has a branding agency, and she's going to come on and talk about branding and what to be looking out for and how to brand your business or do a personal branding. And she's the expert. So I'm really excited to have her on next week. And until then, I hope that you all, have a very Merry Christmas, a very safe and happy holiday with your family. And we'll see you next week.